Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about the integration of applications and data in the enterprise, making it all work together, which is a real challenge given how many tools and data sources that companies are using these days. To discuss that, I'm joined by a very special guest, a real industry leader. With me is Steve Lucas, Chief Executive Officer of Boomi. Steve, good to have you with us today.
I am thrilled to be here. And outside of, maybe grilling and driving cars, this is my favorite topic. So I'm super excited.
Great. Okay. I mean, certainly there is a lot of interest in the idea of integration of data and applications. It's a hot topic. I think a lot of times companies struggle with it because enterprise IT has gotten a lot more complicated than it used to be back when we had just, one good old fashioned data center. Now there's all sorts of endpoints, there's APIs, there's applications every which way. What do you think are the chief challenges that companies are dealing with these days?
Well, I think, first of all, you're absolutely right. Like, what deeply resonates with me is what you said about, like, this isn't the old days, right? Where it's just a couple of systems. How do we get SAP to talk to our fulfillment system? It is not that. The typical company that we're walking into, the CIO, it's kind of an emotional moment that we have where they're coming saying, Steve, I've got not dozens or hundreds, literally thousands of things and endpoints and people and data. And then, by the way, not just data, it's standards now that I have to connect and adhere to and comply with. How? Mm-hmm. And, it reminds me, like in a literal sense, one of our larger our customers, it's a massive energy provider. We'll talk about them later. But this is indicative of the world that we live in. They use Boomi to connect over 1,500 different systems.
Wow.
And that really drives the point home. This isn't like, like I said, we connected one thing with one thing. So it really is systems, apps, people, devices, and it is breaking the back of CIOs.
What was that company doing before Boomi, if there's an answer to that question? I'm just curious.
Solving it with people. They're just literally hiring armies of people to connect. And if you think about it, right, if you've got like Oracle and you've got Salesforce and then some other division has SAP, whatever it may be, all those companies speak different languages and all of them have different standards, right? Over in SAP land, it's ABAP and Java and other things. And then in Oracle land, hopefully there's more standards over there. But none of these companies are incented to connect with any other company. They're just not. Mm-hmm. Why would they do that, right?
Right.
So it's kind of like I oftentimes, especially in dinner table conversation, I kind of say this is like that Tower of Babel scenario, and like who's the multilingual polyglot that we can just kind of leverage to help us speak the language.
Right. We need real time, language translation, which is still a hard thing to have. Well, I guess the question then is, and probably the answer to this question is a 5-hour answer, but if in a nutshell or a reasonable nutshell, what is the answer to this tangle of trying to integrate things? Are there a few best practices? What do you recommend people when they come to you in a semi-panic?
Well, the first thing is, obviously the first thing is not to panic. We have a solution. That's first and foremost. But I think thematically when people come to us, I always like to say, look, I know we've got problems that we've got to solve, but let's think big picture. How do we help you as a company accelerate business outcomes? And how do we help you retire massive amounts of tech debt? And how do we help you simplify your IT environment? If we can do those three things, just simplify, retire some tech debt, and accelerate business outcomes, it's all going to be okay. Mm-hmm. But we've got to focus on those things. I think the wrong way is, hey, I just got to connect this thing with that thing, and can you fix it for me, right? So getting to that strategic altitude so that a CIO can think, oh, well, now I've got, instead of my IT team and my developers needing to speak 10 different languages, they can speak one. Mm-hmm. And then you're using Boomi to kind of layer in a solution across all of the different enterprise applications you have, apply rich API front ends using Boomi to those applications, and then it's just open. I mean, that's how you solve that Tower of Babel type scenario where you've got one common language, one common motion. And if you look at take Sky, so the big cable and TV provider in EMEA, great case in point. Mm-hmm. So all they wanted to do was when a customer calls and they have a problem, and I'm using an app, right? So I'm a cable TV customer. I've got an app. I just want to be able to type in my issue and then get some recommendations. And you'd think, okay, well, that seems straightforward. But for the fact that Sky's customer data and resolution data was in 21 different systems.
Mm.
So when you're talking about 21 different systems, so where do you go?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why they came to Boomi and they said, how do we just get this information in a federated fashion from Boomi across 21 different systems and serve it up to the customer? And so we came in, connected to all those systems, integrated it with this app. And the answer was 6 million pounds in year one of customer service rep time saved. That's the answer. And that's what we're doing over and over and over and over again.
Well, it sounds like you're talking about the importance of thinking holistically, not just one pipe to one pipe, but think big picture. Well, then, in that case, let me ask you a layman's question. Is there such a thing as a single pane of glass or some way to like monitor this spaghetti, all the spaghetti attached to all the spaghetti, or it doesn't necessarily work that way?
Look, I think that gets right to the heart of the matter, that question. Vendors overuse single pane of glass. And I think that's it, right? It
is one of the favorite things to, like, everyone claims to have a single pane of glass. And I'm thinking, really?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's two hype worlds, right? The first is you hear from these vendors that they articulate their ERP solution or product or CRM like we all live in a homogenous world, right? There's only SAP or there's only Oracle. I have yet in nearly 30 years of enterprise software to actually find a homogenous customer where they're just an SAP shop. It just doesn't exist. That's not bad for SAP. It's just reality. So I think grounding ourselves in reality that we live in a world of heterogeneity where things are hyper-fractured and hyper-fragmented. And by the way, if software is truly eating the world, where you have companies like a Campbell's Soup who now has employs like 600 developers at the company, right? They make soup.
Right. Campbell's, who makes tomato soup that I ate as a kid, has 600 developers, huh?
Right, exactly. So when those kinds of companies have that many developers, it's a good indicator of where the world's going. Software is eating the world, applications, integration, all of these things, they're intrinsic to your core business process. So I think number one is you just have to say, look, we live in a world of heterogeneity. I'm not going to buy the hype, number one. But then number two, every 3 years, skinny jeans come back in style. It's customer 360, single pane of glass, Uber control, whatever the words are. But I do believe absolutely that you can and should, anyone out there should use a veneer technology, something that goes across the majority of your enterprise systems. So you're speaking one language. To me, it's a fundamental truth. It's why I joined Boomi is like, yeah, speaking one language is a good thing. And please go ahead.
Well, I was going to say is that I take a moment to drill down into the Boomi offerings. Then is Boomi offering that veneer concept you're talking about?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, that's like back to the example I used. So Origin Energy is the name of the company. And that's what we've come in to do. So they had an entire team of very highly skilled IT professionals and developers spending all of their time integrating the spaghetti between these 1,500 different systems in a literal sense. So their choice was hire a ton more IT resources and developers or bring in Boomi to integrate those 1,500 plus systems. They have one person now that looks after Boomi and those 1,500 connections. One. They didn't have to go hire that army. They're just using that veneer. Another company, Cochlear, their mission and purpose is brilliant. They literally bring hearing to people that never had it before. But one of their big challenges was, how do I get patients in the operating room when I have all this patient data, the doctor data, the schedule information? They use Boomi to orchestrate that. And that moment when you see someone's hearing turned on and you know that your technology was part of getting that patient in the room and the doctor at the right place and the medical team, it means the world. Or the more hard ROI data like Sky, where you're sitting there going, okay, we're able to serve our customers without this intergalactic data warehouse initiative. We're just able to bring the data from those 21 people together. So the evidence is there that the veneer makes sense, to your point.
Well, okay, then let me ask an even dumber layman's question then about Boomi and what it does. When I'm listening to you talk, I'm thinking, well, sometimes I have to drive over to Best Buy to get a cable that connects USB with HDMI. Is that sort of what you're doing at an enterprise level?
Yeah, at an enterprise level, the way we articulate what Boomi does is we provide integration and automation for every company on the planet. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And that integration and automation really is number one, designed to connect all these disparate systems. And everything that you and I have just established around these companies just don't want to talk to each other. They're not incented to talk to each other. So why would they, right?
Right.
So knowing that is like we first integrate, we connect all these systems, and then we using low code, no code a solution. It's literally a design canvas. I can go in and just drag and drop nodes to create a business process. So if I want a lead comes in, I want that lead moved to Marketo, then into Salesforce, and I want to start to build a lead to cash process. I can literally, using a drag and drop canvas, it looks like you're using PowerPoint just on steroids. That's the automation part of the solution. So this connectivity, and today, in a literal sense, so Boomi has connected over 200,000 unique systems, apps, and devices. So that's the range of connectivity we offer. We can connect to smoke signals. And then a little bit of hyperbole, but not much.
not carrier pigeons. I'm right. Carrier pigeons.
That's actually a good one. And then we can use that connectivity to create those automated business processes. And then you're just letting that happen. Now, beyond that, the world of AI awaits. And that's what I came here for, was not just to keep doing what we're doing, but taking that integration and automation vision that we have, and then let's unleash that along with machine learning.
Well, okay, so I see the low code, no code interface. And of course, that means we don't need developers to be doing things. We, as a staff or a middle manager or an executive, could actually drag those elements across the low code, no code canvas. Then what exactly is AI doing in that world?
Oh, well, I mean, so we have, as you know, and you probably have a better view than most human beings on the planet, given what you see in the IT world and the technology world. I think we all know, and I'll just state it, and then I'll come back to your question. We all know that GPT-based technologies and GPT-4 and these new concepts, I think we are truly witnessing an event. And I don't want to overhype it too much, but I think it is of the magnitude of when the advent of the internet. I think
right.
Long term, it will have that magnitude of impact. Now,
I agree. Yep.
That's exciting. It's going to take a decade to unpack, but Boomi has invested for years in machine learning. What we've done is we've said, hey, we know what all the systems are that a customer has and how they connect them. So we know that. We refer to those as integration patterns or design patterns. Mm-hmm. And we've built these sets of algorithms that will look at how you integrate data and then optimize it for you. And why that would make sense is if you're a financial services customer and you're moving too much information to execute on a trade, that takes time and costs you money. Mm-hmm. Now, you could say the same thing about healthcare. When you're moving patient information, you need it now. You need it redundant. The surgeon performing an operation, they need to know in the moment, and you can't have latent data. So obviously speed, size, all those things matter. So we have machine learning technology that helps customers optimize where they store data, how they integrate it, where they move it, and that's super cool. But there's so much more that we can do. So what we're building right now, and we'll come out. I have this thesis, or belief, which is we need to be best to market, not first to market. Mm-hmm. But our best to market offering is a Chat GPT interface trained on Boomi integration data. So I can literally go in and with no technical expertise whatsoever, ask it, create a lead to cash optimized process for me. And then it just visually lays it out and actually creates the functional lead to cash process for me. Not based on what I assumed it to be from what I learned in business school, but actually what's best for my business. And you immediately get presented with a machine learning generated recipe or blueprint. That is game changing, because otherwise you and I know exactly what would happen. A 3-week effort and committees and thinking, but you're just getting this in real time. The ability to innovate on business process is about to be radically changed.
I'm assuming that model would need to be fed a lot of information, a lot of data before it could really become truly mainstream, correct?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there are multiple training elements to this. So one data set, so in a literal sense, Boomi has tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of design models over our, near 20-year existence, where customers have it, the examples that we've used previously. If you're integrating 1,500 different systems, we have a unique view of those integration patterns and what humans believe to be efficient or best, right? So we can train the model on that, number one. And then number two, the models that we're building are looking at volumes of data, where are they stored, all of the above. So yes, we train it on that. But as a Boomi user, you have the benefit of every other company that's come before you in terms of integrating to get this optimized output for integration. And I think it's just what I'm interested in is not, okay, great, can we optimize? What I'm interested in is being able to ask the system that question. Show me three different lead to cash processes and the impact and output thereof. And then I just get that presented to me. That iteration, because I think we both know the long pole in the tent right now, the limiter to that is humans have to go draw it out, design it, put it into the system, click test. And we're shrinking that process down from weeks to months to, in a literal sense, minutes worth of testing. It's very impressive.
Interesting. Well, all right. I think the big question is the future. Companies really want to figure out how can we get ready for the future. So what do you see when you think about enterprise integration and AI and a low code, no code platform all put together? What is that going to look like, 3 to 5 years from now? And how can companies get ready for it now?
Well, I think it's going to be less dependent on buzzword compliant words and phrases like, API management, ETL, EDI. All of these things are just words that people use to describe a different way to integrate information. But they are standards. We like that. They're well understood. This is less about those words and more about how do we give any CIO, any company the ability to just say, hey, I want a future-proof platform that I can put across all of my enterprise applications that lets me connect with those systems and automate when needed, when the automation isn't there. That's what I need. And you can look at any company on the planet, they all need it. They don't all have it, but they all need it. And that's what's going to change is this notion that I need this veneer, this integration layer, period. And by the way, before I invest in the next enterprise system, I need that. That's one. Two, has to give insight, governance, audit control. There's a range of things that you need because the backbreaking notion for CIOs today is, I don't know if I'm compliant in fill in the blank country. And so providing that insight and that governance and compliance, that's part of that veneer as well. That's going to change. And then clearly being a partner to the business. If I, as the CIO, can say, hi, finance, I can literally give you a technology that will let you iterate in a no training, just ask it questions environment where it gives you different business model options. That's game changing for the CIO. That's never been offered before.
It seems like one of the challenges with that, portrait is that the systems that are underneath that veneer are going to themselves change in unpredictable ways and maybe at a galloping speed. So keeping up with the underlying systems is going to be a big challenge for that. True.
It is. You're absolutely right. But the question is, do you put that onus on Boomi or do you leave it within IT? And I think right now that the fundamental challenge is it's left within IT. And then you come back to the example I shared earlier, and you've got Origin sitting there going, okay, I basically have to hire a truckload of resources to keep up with that. That's not their job. Their job is not integration. Their job is innovation. And I know that's a little cliche, but it is fair to argue. And I think that's where we are, is just this deep belief that if we can continue to broaden the integration and automation value proposition, we can drive that vision of the veneer, and we can hold on to the low code, no code ethos. This is not about here's yet another complex technology. You have to go hire ABAP developers. Good luck figuring that out, right? Like that's not where we want to go. We want to stay lightweight, simple, high value add, high ROI. If we can do those things, I think that, for us and certainly the other companies in the industry, I think the future is super bright.
It appears so, for sure, because certainly with all the complication, there's definitely a need for that. Steve, I think you said it. A lot of interesting stuff. I hope you'll come back and talk with us again sometime. And thanks for sharing your insight.
Well, same here. Love talking, and I'm an avid listener, and look forward to talking again. Have a great rest of the week.